The left already, starting with Humpty Dumpty, fake news, CNN, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, predictably claiming this is conservative censorship. The MAGA crowd, Donald Trump got Jimmy Kimmel. That is false. I can't find a single prominent conservative voice in the country that even remotely wanted or hoped or was pushing to get Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. Nobody, it just was simple. People changed the channel. They didn't watch him. Not one person can I think of. Maybe there's one, but I can't think of them.
The excuse that's come from a lot of conservatives that have been like, oh man, it's what ABC decided. If ABC doesn't want to have a show on the air anymore, maybe because of an offensive remark, which wasn't an offensive remark, which was actually an accurate remark based in a joke. What they're claiming is that ABC can do this. ABC was offended by it. There's just one problem. There's people at ABC that accidentally talked about how much of a lie that is. Rolling Stone reported this. In the hours leading up to the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, is what the two sources say. But the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. They didn't think that it was offensive. They didn't think that they would suddenly lose all viewership because Jimmy Kimmel, for the 128th time, told some truths about Donald Trump that pissed him off. The reality is as they keep lying to you, they accidentally keep telling the truth. Here's what that fascist Brendan Carr then also posted after he got his wish. He said, I want to thank Nexstar for doing the right thing. Local broadcasters have an obligation to serve the public interests. While this may be an unprecedented decision, it's important for broadcasters to push back on Disney programming that they determine falls short of community values. I hope that other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead. Oh, there's a lot in there. He said it's important for broadcasters to push back on Disney program that they determine falls short of community values. Who determined that? I heard you on that other guy's channel talking about how it offends you, and we need to pull back on this because it offends the regime. So there's this assumption, there's this propaganda and commentary about how everything that they believe falls short of community standards and values is also what falls short of America's community standards and values. This guy has been saying it since he ran for president before. Everything that Donald Trump thinks is his or represents him represents America because he thinks only his opinion and his position and his money making counts. That's how these things work. And the last part, there's that secondary veiled threat. I hope other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead. He hopes because he started by threatening them.
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly.
And in case you needed to drive that point home, the president, the fascist in the White House, did the same thing. Great news for America, he posted. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel Show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. This is the best part. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. There's the next stage. When you allow fascists to roll over you and you don't push back, they go, well, how about the next? And how about the next? And how about the next? Until total censorship and oppression of opposition is complete. They started with the military in the streets in Los Angeles by making up shit about what's going on in the streets. Then they started making up shit about what's going on in the streets in DC. Now they're making up shit about what's going on in the streets in in Chicago and then Baltimore and then Memphis. Yes, there's crime in these places, but none of those are lowered by them sending military to stand in the streets and harass people. It's just not true. Here's Benny Johnson, that guy that hosted Brendan Carr at the beginning of this whole thing. Benny Johnson posted because he reposted something from Charlie Kirk from back in 2017 that said Jimmy Kimmel isn't funny. That was Charlie Kirk's thoughts. And Benny Johnson then retweeted that now just yesterday and said, we did it for you, Charlie. And we're just getting started. Benny Johnson did something as far as the FCC and also ABC and Nexstar. I didn't know Benny Johnson worked for ABC, Disney, Nexstar, and Sinclair Broadcasting. I didn't know that. But what he's letting you know is that he has influence on forcing companies to do certain things if they want their money. He also pointed out that he's influenced over supporting this president who wants to suppress any kind of opposition or any kind of First Amendment free speech because he doesn't like it. Because Benny Johnson, Donald Trump, Brendan Carr, and all these folks who are part of this fascist administration are weak, and they need this veneer of strength to be believed by enough people for them to continue to steamroll. And once they start steamrolling, they start demanding everything. Here, I'm gonna prove that to you too. Sinclair Broadcasting Group says it will air a 1-hour tribute to Charlie Kirk on Friday across all of its ABC affiliated TV stations. The special will air in the 11:35 p.m. time slot that is typically reserved for Jimmy Kimmel Live. Isn't that weird? It's like they're trying to extra rub this in and be like, this is what we're gonna do with that airtime that we just took, and we're gonna put propaganda about the guy that spread hate and division and that said certain people in this country are lesser than others, that they don't have mental capabilities, that they don't deserve to have certain kinds of jobs because of the color of their skin. These were not debates. These were racist diatribes. So now they're going to run a propaganda show on all these networks that they just took over through a fascist move via capitalism to make sure that they can force these new propaganda beliefs that they're trying to make reality. The point here is to really drive home this is a MAGA fascist regime, and this country will follow everything we tell it to follow. Don't get any of that twisted. I'm gonna read a piece from the Sinclair letter that's talking about that, Charlie Kirk special that they want to run. It says, Mr. Kimmel's remarks were inappropriate and deeply insensitive at a critical moment for our country. That's what the vice chairman, Jason Smith, said of Sinclair. He said, we believe broadcasters have a responsibility to educate and elevate respectful, constructive dialogue in our communities. We appreciate FCC Chairman Carr's remarks today, and this incident highlights the critical need for the FCC to take immediate regulatory action to address control held over local broadcasters by the big national networks. In case you haven't caught the irony alert of them talking about control over people's networks and what they can see and oppressing other people's thoughts and First Amendment rights, they're doing it right there. More, Sinclair's ABC stations will air that special. That's what we talked about a second ago. And it said Sinclair is offering the special to all ABC affiliates across the country. Here's what we're talking about with the Kimmel stuff. Sinclair will not lift the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Sinclair also calls upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. Furthermore, we ask Mr. Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. Do you now see, as they're calling this, a suspension until further notice? The rest of the notice has to be then that Jimmy Kimmel drops to a knee, pays personal money to Charlie Kirk's family, and Turning Point USA has an open public apology where I guess, they're going to be standing in front of him with weapons to force that upon him. And if he doesn't, then you're going to continue that same cancellation and also that oppression of people's rights. Are we seeing the fascism yet? I just wonder, at what point are we going to start recognizing this is fascism? That same FCC chair, Brendan Carr, was on this morning to talk about that Sinclair letter and that demand that Jimmy Kimmel pay them.
According to the New York Times, late Wednesday, I'm just quoting here, Sinclair, another owner of many local TV stations, said that it would also suspend Mr. Kimmel's program and called on Mr. Kimmel to apologize and make a meaningful personal donation to Mr. Kirk's family and the activist political group Turning Point USA. Do you think that's an appropriate remedy of the situation?
I think Sinclair has every right to call for that. Again, Sinclair affiliates with Disney. They take Disney contract. They have a contractual relationship with Disney, and that's between the two of them to figure out, what's going to make sense to make both of them comfortable with the relationship going forward. But again, over the years, it would be unthinkable for Sinclair, for Nexstar, for local TV stations to actually say, you know what? We're not going to take this particular programming that's coming out of New York and Hollywood and send it to Pennsylvania and Utah. And so the idea that local broadcasters feel like they can push back, I think that's a much, much healthier dynamic for the country right now.
Don't let them make you forget that this is all about them leaning on them for this merger deal, for more money to be made. That's all it is. And then when they get on TV, they're going to say, I think they have all the rights in the world to force a one late night TV host to pay with his own money to these folks that we're now using as a martyr for our authoritarian takeover. It's right in front of you. They're not denying that stuff. Every time someone brings that up, they just, go back to their lies. There's no actual proof of reality that says the opposite, because that's exactly what's happening. When fascists start rolling downhill, they take it to the next step and the next step and the next step. This is the fascist president of the United States. I'm pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, which he calls a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this bullshit. So, the highest legal standards and practices are being carried out by Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, his personal attorney, who's the deputy at the DOJ, who's now working to get Ghislaine Maxwell released and sent to that lower minimum security prison camp. That's what we now have as the highest legal standards and practices. And with those legal standards and practices in place, what you've got is the president saying he's designated anybody that he deems Antifa to be a terrorist. What you can then do with terrorists is prosecute them, is imprison them for however long you want to, disappear them off the streets, and in cases which we're doing internationally, just kill them. Sounds a lot like what Brian Kilmeade said the other day about unhoused folks. So are we seeing it yet? I'm wondering, are we seeing it yet? He can then designate anybody that he wants, just like he designated anybody he wanted that he was trying to deport as a criminal, illegal alien. And then many people go, I'm a United States citizen. Those papers don't matter to me. You said something that's in opposition to the president. That means you are a radical terrorist. He got confronted by Code Pink women in the restaurant. He said they were dangerous and oppressing him for going out to eat. That was Todd Blanche went on TV and said, listen to yourself. Are you really saying that the elitist president, when he goes out to dinner, if he gets shouted at by 3 or 4 women, that's not oppressive, that's not dangerous, that's not impeding on him? And he wanted RICO charges put out against them. This is the blueprint. This is now what they're wanting to be the standard. You say something that is in opposition to this fascist, and they will come for you. So let me show you old friend of TYT, Hasan Piker, in response to that note about Antifa. I've been saying it, but maybe you guys can hear it from him.
I am an anti-fascist, okay? This administration. This administration is a fascist one. I am an anti-fascist. What the fuck are we doing? What's next? Are they going to openly go, nope, we are a fascist government now? They're going to just say that? Is that what we're doing? Because anti-fascism is just fascism. Bro, don't say that right now. Oh, what the f***? Get out of here, dude. Listen, you need to understand something, okay? These people are not strong. They're f***ing weak. They fear you being united, okay? We have the numbers. There are Americans of good conscience everywhere. Okay. And because they're so fearful that if the people stand united, that they'll never be defeated, that they try to pick apart. They try to divide the masses. They try to make an example out of people. Okay. And when institutions don't actually respond in defense of the citizens in a country like the United States of America, especially, okay, if institutions don't respond, if people don't respond, if they actually obey in advance, then regardless of how weak they are, regardless of how fearful they are, they win. And it doesn't stop. When they get a victory, they do not stop. That just emboldens them to dig deeper. This is how it fucking works. They do not have enough confidence. They do not have the numbers. There is a lot of discontent against this administration. They do not have the numbers. They can't even get the fucking National Guard to be deployed everywhere. They can't do that. And even if they were to do that, There is no guarantee of success because the National Guard is also comprised of your fucking neighbors, okay? There's no guarantee that those guys are going to be like, all right, well, we're loyal servants of fascism now. These are the actions of a weak administration. These are not the actions of a strong administration. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to stamp out any sort of discontent. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to try to put the fear of God in your hearts, in your minds, in your soul, to stop you, to make you think twice before you engage in any sort of anti-fascist action, before you engage in any sort of demonstration, because they are afraid. It is upon all of us to make sure that we don't stand down, okay? Today will be the easiest day for you to express your discontent. Tomorrow, it will get harder. And the day after, it will be even harder than that. And the less we express our discontent, the less we express our frustrations, the more this administration will feel emboldened to do more of the same.
I don't think it can get much clearer than that. The weakness that this guy in the White House exudes is what then progresses the fascism. We have this weird mindset that we think fascists are strong. Fascists in the past hid behind all the things that they were pushing at folks. When they had any kind of confrontation, they fucking crumbled. They're weak. They're weak-minded. They don't do things well. Look at this administration. Look at this cabinet. Look at Pete Hegseth. They don't do anything well. They just have this veneer of doing something well. And they tell you how great they are. And everybody who's accomplished, they demean and talk down and say that they don't have credentials. That's what Charlie Kirk used to always do. That's part of the propaganda. As we continue to let their weakness that they're trying to pass off as strength control us, we're giving it away. We're giving it away out of fear of scared people. Remember the Heritage Foundation guy? When they were still campaigning, he said this second American Revolution is coming and it will remain bloodless as long as the left allows it to be. He said it right there. We're afraid of you. We just have to tell you we're going to kill you so that you'll let us do what we want.